My name is Devon. I love biking, candy, playing with chalk, and video games. Minecraft is my favorite video game. In most ways, I'm just like other kids, but sometimes I'm very different. A lot of these differences are caused by something called Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD. It's called spectrum disorder because, like colors, there are countless variations to how the disorder affects people. I am high functioning, which means I don't seem to have as many troubles as some people with ASD. But just like you, the fact that I look okay doesn't mean I feel okay. Autism is a developmental disorder. That means people with autism develop differently. I love to do grown-up things like cook and go target shooting, and I also love to do kid stuff like play soccer, trade Pokemon cards, and play with bubbles. In some ways, I'm developing just like everyone else. For example, I can do the same schoolwork as my classmates. Then in other ways, either more developed than my peers or less, like being very skilled at working with infants, yet not being able to handle teasing very well at all. Being such a mix of ahead, next to, and behind other kids' development makes life confusing and hard sometimes. The toughest part is when I feel like no one understands me. That's why I want my peers to know about me and my autism, and to know that it's great if they have questions for me or to ask a teacher about me. One of the more common questions my family gets asked is about stimming. Stims are repetitive behaviors that seem to have no use. People without autism have stims, like bouncing your knee. People with autism stim in lots of different ways, like rocking, hand rubbing, or flapping, chewing, or squeezing themselves. I tend to pull on the neck of my t-shirt, rub my hands, and mess with my hair. Even though it seems useless, it definitely isn't. Stimming can help us keep in control of our emotions. People with autism can develop differently in lots of ways. One common difference is having a sensory processing disorder, or SPD. When people touch something like a can, their brain takes the message from the hand and turns it into sensations like soft. SPD takes that communication between body and brain and mixes it up. Cans feel soft to me also, but blue jeans, slimy things, and spicy food all feel like a tax. Very harsh and almost impossible to tolerate. I avoid things that feel like that as often as I can, but sometimes I just have to find ways to cope. For example, I never wear scratchy blue jeans, but I do still have to wear slimy sunscreen. Meal times can be a bummer for me because a lot of the food doesn't even taste like food to me. Sometimes my sensory disorder makes the noises noisier, the lights lighter, and the activity level more active. When this happens, all the signals in my brain can get so busy, it takes up the part of my brain that handles manners and high thinking. I might be super chatty, bounce around, or stim. It's hard to see my sweet or smart side when I'm feeling this way. It's also easier for me to have a meltdown, so it's a good idea for me to take my breaths and calm down as much as I can before that can happen. After all, even good stress is still stress. It's a great idea to give me a square of empty space to get my wiggles out and to be extra patient. I don't always get to choose what my brain does. A lot of people with autism are proficient or extra good at math, computers, art, or music. I'm lucky to be great at all of them. I'm better at art than computers, and better at math than music. Some people with autism are called autistic savants. They're amazing at just one area, but they're better than computers at math, or better at art than a printer. Most people with autism have average to high intelligence. I'm incredibly intelligent, but I don't think it's nearly as important as being nice or funny. Sometimes I struggle with being nice and funny though. Can you guess why? It's because one of the main issues with autism is communication. It's hard to seem nice or funny even when someone has the right idea, if they aren't able to communicate it clearly to others. I've been working hard to learn how to communicate, and now I can do things that are usually hard or even impossible for autistic kids, like knowing when people are being literal or figurative. When I was younger, if you said you were so hungry you could eat a horse, I would have been grossed out. Now, when people ask me what's up, I know they mean what's new, or interesting. Most of the time I can tell when people are being sarcastic or joking, but sometimes I do still misunderstand. Despite all my hard work, I still have a lot of struggles with the part of communication that isn't spoken out loud. The finer details will take me a while to perfect, and in the meantime, I'm not always good at realizing whether I've been meanly shoved or accidentally bumped into, understanding certain facial expressions and body language, and knowing whose turn it is to talk. If there's something I'm not understanding, it's important to speak up and let me know. For example, you may have your arms crossed in a grouchy expression, but it may not be enough. I may need to be outright told I'm having a bad day and I want to be alone. Otherwise, I might very well continue talking to you like nothing is wrong, because I haven't been able to put together your body language and expression. If I'm talking too much and not giving you a turn, it's okay to be assertive. Again, I may have not noticed what's happening. Try, "Hey, excuse me, but it's my turn to talk." If you say it with a smile, I'll know you aren't trying to be mean or bossy. I really do want to hear from others, and I'm actually happy to take my turn listening while I realize it's time. To be honest, it's actually almost always best to be served with me. Autistic people in general tend to be blunt and clear, so if you worry about being rude, just remember you actually speak our language. But remember, blunt doesn't mean unkind. I like to be very close to the person I'm talking to, but a lot of people seem to want more space. If you want more space, you may have to be clear about it. After all, if you just take a small step backwards, why wouldn't I, or shouldn't I, take a step forward? The word autism comes from the Greek word autos, which means self. I can get very caught up in work that I enjoy. I might sink into myself, and it could become difficult to get my attention. Sometimes I'll be reading a book. Sometimes I'll be telling a story in my head. If I ignore you, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It means my brain is all sucked up into another activity. Try looking at my eyes and saying my name. It might take a couple of tries, but my name is almost as good as a way to get my attention as asking who wants candy. Now that I've been in occupational therapy, I almost never have meltdowns. Sometimes I have a hard time working through things that upset or stress me. It's a lot more likely if I feel I can't talk about something or fix it. When it gets really, really bad, sometimes I have a meltdown. During a meltdown, I feel I have no control over anything. I might cry or yell, I might be unkind. I know it's tough on others, but it's also super tough on me. Inside, I feel like a billion bees are in my spine, or like nobody will ever like me again, and all the sadness from the bog of despair is living in my eyes. I hate meltdowns. I hate not being myself when I have one. If I hurt your feelings, please come talk to me so I can try to apologize. The best way to get a hold of myself during a meltdown is if someone I really feel safe and comfortable with will get my attention and remind me to take deep breaths. Since my emotions and senses are shouting so loud in my brain, that person may need to repeat themselves a lot and definitely be super patient. Being shown and told is always more helpful than just being told. Take breaths with me. I have special breaths I can do that make scared and sad feelings calm way down. If you want, I'd love to teach you how. It's like super breaths for the brain. Of course, I might still be really sad about the problem or upset, even once I can think or talk again. So it's best if we can fix or talk about the problem before I get overwhelmed with it again. However, it makes me really uncomfortable to talk about my meltdown, so it'd be nice if we could drop it as soon as it's dealt with. There's a whole lot more to learn about autism, but eventually I'm going to lose my voice. Try to recall what you've learned, and try to be brave enough to ask questions. Most of the things you may not know, like about how I treat you or others, is because I am understanding things differently. I always want people to be comfortable around me, and I'm smart and patient enough to talk things out, so please just chat with me about it. Another option is to go to our teacher or another staff at the school. They know me and they can help answer your questions or join us as we talk it out.